Welcome, golfers, to the next episode of the Read It, Roll It, Hole It podcast. Today, we are joined by the putt doctor, Dr. Craig Farnsworth. Welcome, Craig.
Thank you, Ellie. A pleasure to be here.
Look, I'm looking forward to this. We're both putting geeks. We love our putting. You're widely regarded as one of the best putting instructors in the US. You've got books, you've got loads of training aids. So I'm really looking forward to diving into this and talking to you today.
Thank you.
Brilliant stuff. So, Craig, the first thing that sort of comes up on your website is that you're a sports vision optimist. We said that I would struggle with this word, and you said I could just say optician. So sports vision optician, but talk to me. What on earth does that mean?
Well, optometry is a specialty of dealing with the visual system for glasses, contacts, disease, and for some of us, training. So using the eyes to train the brain. We know in testing NBA basketball players, shooters, golfers, etc., that when we see what their eyes do, even though they may see the cup clearly, when we track what their eyes do, their eyes are not pointing exactly at the cup. They're pointing a little left and long or short, or maybe right and short. And there are not a lot of great visual athletes out there. When they set themselves apart, like Steph Curry in basketball, Michael Jordan. You've got someone named Tiger, etc., that have incredible visual skills. And I don't mean eyesight, I mean ability to look and locate the target exactly in space, because most of us see an illusion, not reality. The hole's a little left, a little right of where it really is in our eyes.
Wow, that's just fascinating. That's got my mind sort of racing already there. Can we talk some more about that? Like, so we don't actually see where we don't look where what we can see. So tell me some more.
Yeah, we're not looking where we think we are. So we localize the cup as, say, a little left. Well, after putting for a while, you see people will start opening their putter face because the ball's going left of the cup. So they're making a compensation, or vice versa. So generally, most players, though, see things short of actual. So when they eyeball the cup, okay, their eyes are actually crossing like this. So the cup is out here and their eyes are crossing here. So the biggest thing we have to contend with as instructors is getting them to appreciate what space really is from one spot to the other. And so eyeballing it from behind the ball and looking at the cup, like when we did Hideki's eyes barely crossed at halfway.
Wow.
On a test we did. And I said, any trouble with distance control? He goes, no wonder I can't get the ball to the target. So you're telling me I see things that short? And I said, well, you've made adaptations with practice, but yeah, your miss is going to be short. And he just shakes his head. So I said, it isn't technique that's the problem. It's the visual skills that are a problem. And so we work to fix that.
I love that. Our good friend, we share mutual friends with Roberto Cino, the crazy Italian man from Turin.
Yes.
He once showed me that test. Can you sort of perhaps explain that test for the listeners to give it a go, creating a triangle with your hands? And
yeah. Well, so the first test would be determining the player's dominant eye. And it's amazing, Ollie, that most of the kids know the dominant eye, but the adults have no clue. So somehow some of the stuff I've written is getting through to people. But basically, it's making a circle with your hand, okay, about like this, and looking at a target at a distance, and then holding up your hand and taking a look at what eye you're looking through. So you can see if I close my left eye, you can't see my eye, but if I close my right eye, you can see my eye. And you can see that, but then the player can see the same thing. So that we start with showing the dominant eye, and then we have to have them look at a target at distance. Could be a cup, okay, could be a ball on the ground 20, 30 feet away. Have them look at the target, close their eyes, and then take their 2 index fingers and point at where they perceive the target to be, and then open their dominant eye and take a look at where they're pointing. So left, right, short, long. Most people are right or left, but almost everybody is short.
So why is that?
That's perception. Okay, they haven't trained their eyes well enough to appreciate distance. So what we actually have the players do to start with is to really go beside the ball and cup and take a look from cup to ball. Now we've actually gone completely through space from a target B, the ball, to target A, the cup, as opposed to eyeballing it from behind, where the eyes don't go through space like they would from the side. You can get them to do that. I would encourage that, but the best way I like is to the side. So when we got DJ to do that, he not only got to see space in terms of the real distance, he also got to appreciate more uphill, downhill. And literally, I asked him, could you visualize if I putted over there, how quickly off my putter would the ball be that you could tell if it was short, long, or just perfect? He goes, pretty quickly. So I said, yeah, and you go over here to visualize other people's. You do it subconsciously, but you don't go over here to do your own. And he goes, got it. And that's first thing, one of the first things he did was he got down and he looked and he moved his eyes from A to B.
That's great. I've seen him do that.
And then we're talking about last year, oh my gosh, what's he doing? He's spending more time in putting than he does a regular shot and blah, blah, blah. Well, gee, after winning 23 million, they didn't quite say that anymore.
No, 100%. Let's go down the DJ route. I know you've worked with some wonderful golfers over the years, DJ, Nick Faldo, or Sir Nick Faldo, Brad Faxon, possibly known as one of the best putters that's ever sort of lived this planet. Bernard Langer, one of probably the best minds that's ever lived on this planet.
Amen.
Can you take us through sort of from each one, perhaps what you've worked with them on and what you've learned from them as well, because they are, exceptionally talented individuals.
Agreed. Well, I probably start from the last to first. Bernhard Langer, definitely one of the brightest minds out there, and Bernhard's still winning. Okay, at 60, 2 or 3. And so what I've learned from Bernhard is, number one, dedication to the cause. He learns something, he goes at it. In fact, all the people you mentioned, I have one thing in common. They're great listeners. They listen, they apply. If it doesn't work, they'll table it. But generally, Ollie, they make it better than you give it to them, and then you look better. Okay. In other words, they own it and they own it as their own. So Bernhard is probably the best course manager golf has ever seen. He seldom beats himself. And that's impressive. And then Sir Nick Faldo was probably my most dedicated individual. He not only listened to what I said, he wanted every eye exercise he could because he saw things short and left, and he wanted to work with visual training to get him to be accurate at his localization. And he went from 79th and 95 to first in putting in 96 and won the Masters. And literally a lot of that was the visualization and visual accuracy we work with. And then Faxon was a great green reader and had incredible control of his putter. And the main thing we worked with was getting him to aim a little better at times and appreciating that, and then enhanced his green reading skills even more. So I did not work with him with a putting stroke, thank God. Okay.
Yeah.
He had that down fine. And then you've got DJ, who basically saw things short. One of the first things we did on the putting green at the Bears Club was watch this, Doc. So he putts one and he says, see that? That's 4 feet short and I'm 30 feet away. That's me. If I could get that 4 more feet, I'd win 6, 7 tournaments a year. And I went, well, we can kind of I think we can make that work. And he goes, really? And so here we go with the pointing test. And he did that to that cup. He goes, oh my God. He said, I'm putting right where my ball, I'm pointing right where my ball stopped. You mean
Wow.
That's where I see the cup? And I said, there you are. And so the rest is history. So he really started using the line on the ball to aim, because he was aiming right and then pulling everything. So he thought that he had no problem with aim, that he was just pulling. And I said, no, your aim's causing the pull. So we worked with aiming with the line. And I said, you don't probably know this, but there was someone that recommended in a book drawing a line on the ball back in about 96, 97. He goes, no. I said, you know who that was? He said, no. I said, that was me. I'm the first person that ever wrote about drawing a line on the ball. And
Wow.
only one guy did it at the time, and that was Brad Faxon. And I hadn't even worked with Brad at the time. So he comes to me and said, I've drawn a line on the ball since 8th grade. I said, wow, I did not know that. He said, so that's why I'm coming to you. You're the first guy that really did anything other than me. And then he sends me Billy Andrade, who'd been playing golf with him, thousands around. Billy never knew that Faxon aimed the line on the ball. So anyhow, that was his big epiphany.
Wow.
So on and on. So, you find little idiosyncrasies, but you find some common knowledge, and they're all dedicated. They're all good listeners, and they try what you want them to do and generally make it better and own it.
Love that. Love that. The own it part. That's the secret there. I love that. The one thing I read on your website was quite opening for me regarding DJ. Was you said that he's an absolute math genius.
Yeah.
Now, I don't want to be rude, but he comes across as probably not a genius. Can you tell us? I don't want to be rude, but people think he just walks around the course. He doesn't know what day it is, and he's so. Do you know what I mean? Tell us about DJ's personality.
That's a little bit of his persona. Sir Nick had a little of his persona out there, as you know, standoffish and, doing his thing, etc. So DJ, is a math whiz. If you gave him a number like 267 times 12, he'd give the answer in about 3 seconds. He's amazing. He's really good with math. He's really good with numbers. He's good with finance. He's no fool. Let's put it that way. He's a good listener, so I call that a good intelligence too, and a characteristic of an elite player. And when we worked with him on certain things like stroke ratio, and he goes, wow, Doc, that was a different sound off my putter. What did that mean? I said, well, what does the number say on my iPad? He goes, it says I had a slight decel of -2 feet per second. I went, mwah. He said, so that's what you want? And that's the sound you want off my putter? He said, gee, I could use the sound as to tell how the ball's rolling. I said, exactly. So, he comes up with these things. And remember him putting his left arm on his right elbow? Yeah. Well, he was very open with his stance, and his right arm was long and his left arm was bent. So we tried to get him left arm, a little longer, and right arm bent, so his forearms were parallel. He came up with this little drill of getting his forearm on his left arm to be parallel to his putter face or putter line, and that's how he got his forearms parallel. That's DJ. Not bad, huh?
Smart guy. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Sorry.
The other thing that I know that you worked on with him and his brother Austin, who I don't think Austin probably gets the credit that he deserves. I see you nodding there, but yeah, like he, obviously they do the green reading process together. Austin appears to do the aim point. DJ does some of it, maybe sometimes, and they come up with a decision together. Right. Now, the reason I say like Austin doesn't get the credit, like whatever he does with DJ, they come up with some damn good green reading. Talk us through. Obviously, this is a loaded question, Doc, because we're both level 3 AimPoint instructors. We know perhaps where this is going, but let's let the big dog eat and talk about AimPoint and that process.
Yeah, well, I obviously was made aware knowing I was going to work with DJ, watching a little more of him and his brother work. And so on a rainy day in Florida, we ended up being chased inside. So we went down to Joey D's workout area where DJ works, and Austin, I met him down there. So I asked him a couple of things. And so he and DJ were together for the first time all day. So I said, okay, so Austin does AimPoint and you look behind the ball and behind the cup. So in essence, you've got a read and AJ has a read. So DJ, what does AJ read differently than you? And he said, well, AJ generally reads more break than I do. And I said, so that's interesting. Do you underread or overread putts? He said, I typically underread. I said, well, now we have an end of discussion. I want you to start trusting AJ's read more, because obviously overread has a better chance than underread. And as you know, as an AimPoint instructor, getting players to play a little more on the high side than normal, gets them putting more into the slope and less side break than being low and letting the ball roll across the break and end up maybe 3 to 5 feet more second putt distance than if they overread a little bit. And so he shook his head. And from that point on, DJ still does his thing, but he knows that AJ has a little more, shall we say, input into green reading than before. And even though he does his thing, he trusts AJ pretty darn well most of the time. So AimPoint, check, another disciple.
Fantastic. I love that. The just before we talk about AimPoint some more, you mentioned Brad Faxon earlier, that he was an exceptionally good green reader, and you worked with him on his green reading to enhance it. What did you do?
Well, those were the days before AimPoint. And so we were trying to get I worked with Sir Nick, I worked with Fax, I worked with Sari Pak, a bunch of them, because in those days, sports vision optometry and aiming and distance perception. Golf had not heard this. Dominant eye, whoa. So when my book came out, I must have seen 30 PGA and LPGA players within months. And they were all wanting to work on their alignment, et cetera. And so with Faxon, we wanted to see if he read better from behind the ball or behind the cup, and being able to see the terrain better, especially near the cup. That was before AimPoint teaching us that the middle section is a little more important than right at the cup. And so we were on a false premise. But thanks to Sweeney, we got an AimPoint. We got a little better understanding. But at least we could see that the last half of the putt, guys like Faxon could read left or right putts better from behind the cup. But everything else he read better, believe it or not, over the ball, which is pretty unusual. But he also had some of the best eyes I ever tested. And so did Sir Nick. So visual skills, we're talking, being able to see the subtleties of terrain. And so Sari Pak, her real name is Park in Korea, but they messed up on her visa. So over here, she's Sari Pak. She read better from behind the cup. A lot of others read better from behind the ball. We tried to figure which was better. Excuse me.
Love it. That visual the visual test, you said that, Faldo and Faxons, their eyes were some of the best you've seen.
All right.
The eye is a muscle, so I guess it can be trained. Right?
The eye is controlled by 6 muscles on each side. Yes.
Okay.
But the eyes are kind of, as we say, the windows to our soul. And so by training the visual system to give the brain better input, we're really training the brain. So, okay. But the visual system pretty much takes in about 85% of what we react to during the day. So it's a pretty important tool or organ. And so we try to get, like if I work with the Secret Service observation skills for the advanced detail for the president or the Pope, et cetera, we work with the skills to make them more visually aware and visually alert, and also visually endurance. So think about it. If I ask you to drive out of your parking lot, how long before your brain starts going into thinking? And, you're generally in one place physically and another place mentally. We do that all the time. Definitely. And that's really telling you visually, you're just shutting off and you're daydreaming. And we're trying to get people, obviously, to stay a little more visually alert. And to do that, they have to have good visual skills to be enduring in that long as it takes to do a task.
Fascinating. I love that. So how much of that leads on or is linked to the mental side of golf when, am I right in saying what you're saying there with me driving in my car? It's that present moment. So yeah, we're driving the car in our present moment, but our mind could be in the future or the past.
Well, think about it, Ollie, that how long could we go and what are we doing? Well, overall, I like people to realize that it's a habit we get into of turning our phone on, looking at a few things, turning the radio on, blah, blah, blah. We end up distracting ourselves way too much. So we recommend some drills that players do. So for example, I'll have a player when I'm doing some mental training, hit to we have flagpoles out there that are about this much in circumference, and they're white, yellow, or white, black, white, purple. So I have them hit some balls at the pole out there, and I ask them, how far is that? Okay, fine. What club are you going to use? Hit a few shots. Fine. Where's your target? Left of the pole, right of the pole, right at the pole, short, etc. I said, okay, turn around and close your eyes. Now describe the pole to me. I mean, it's amazing what you hear. And so you're saying, you think you're really immersed in your target, and especially if it's at the pole or near it, but you really didn't observe it very well. So as Sherlock said to Dr. Watson, you look, but you do not observe, Watson. So I asked the players to think about, if you're going to be a better visualizer, oh yeah, that's an important tool. You've got to be a better observer, because a visualization is recurring in the brain, something you've seen before. So we asked them to paint that pole out there. How much in a palette of purple paint would you need? How deep is that, or tall is that? Then is the white the same? How much white paint do you need? How many stripes? What's on top? Oh, it's a white cap. I guess I didn't see that. So we get them to be better observers. And that alone, that we call paintbrush mentality, gets people to be in the moment longer, because we don't practice that. If I introduce myself to you, half the time, if I introduce myself to 10 people, couldn't tell you my name, even though I said it, because I either look like something, oh, gee, he doesn't have any hair, or he remind, blah, 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 or something. You're trying to think of something clever to say, and you heard the name, but it didn't process it. Does that make sense? Yeah, so it's amazing how much we distract ourselves.
So how do you teach or transfer that painting of the posts, that observation to the putting?
Yeah, basically want the player to realize a couple things. Number one, that being a better observer is a better visualizer. So doing training off the golf course. Oh my, off the golf course training? Who does that? I said, well, I work with hockey goalies. I work with NBA players. I work with Secret Service. I work with Delta Force. I work with Federal Air Marshals. They all work with training their eyes, training their brain off the field of endeavor. So when they're on the field of endeavor, they don't have to think about all this stuff. So when I say that to golfers are the worst I've ever worked with. I'm not kidding you, at doing off-field drills. It's amazing. It's all about the swing, and
Totally.
visualization. And you mean replaying some of the shots I hit? I don't like to do that. I said, well, you have a lobotomy or what? It's there. Why don't you replace it with a good visual picture? Why don't you do that on the golf course more? Why don't you do that at home? It's crazy. So golf is way behind in the mental side of things.
Why do you think that is?
I think as we instructors are so into technique and all the things going on to get the perfect this and that what the definition of a perfect swing is, in my feeling, it's the way the last champion did it. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So, we all come up with all kinds of ideas and whatever, but the fact of the matter is that we need to expand what we work on and maybe diminish a little of some other things.
I love that. So, Doc, have you got a task that the listeners could take away from this podcast today to get better on the mental side of golf at home? Have you got I don't like the word drill as such, but a task they can try and give a go?
Yeah, well, there's all kinds of tasks they can do. You see them in the paper all the time, like rows of 7, and then maybe a T hidden in there, or zeros and 8s, etc. Things like that. I'll put random numbers like 1 through 0 on a line and do 6, 7 lines, and then ask them how many 3s are there and time themselves, and how many 5s are there and time themselves, and then write the answer down and take a look. So just giving them some any visual drills that would be helpful like that are good. Same type of thing. Look at a painting. Okay, now turn around and try and draw as best you can the characteristics in the painting, the depth, etc. Just getting them to be more observant on the objects, their length, their height, their relationship to each other. So it's just an awareness. So once again, trying to get to be a Sherlock and not a Dr. Watson.
Brilliant. I love that. I'll be giving that a go later.
See how long that happens before you go to sleep, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Doc, going back to AimPoint, why is AimPoint so cool?
Well, as you know, and as an eye doctor, we know through Mueller's lines and some of the things we see that you can trick the eyes very easily. And so, back in the old days, Ollie, the green reading was real simple. We had the 90% rule. On old courses, 90% of the greens broke from back to front. So, it was pretty easy to figure out right to left and left to right, et cetera. Of course, how much was another story. But nowadays, you've got different sections of greens. You may have a green that has got 4 or 5 different ways the ball breaks. So that's been the biggest change in golf, has been making the greens harder to read because there are sections, whereas before it was pretty much one section. And so now we got a different challenge. And it's very easy for a designer to fool the eyes by using background noise, as I call it. We got a green out here on right by the first tee. And if you're putting, the slope is like this. And so you can see it in the background. And yet everyone, including every tour player I've had that doesn't use AimPoint, plays that to break according to the background. It breaks the opposite way. Oh, did I push that, Doc? No, you didn't. Why? It's right of the cup. It didn't break. It didn't. I had to push. No, it broke right. No, it can't break right. No. Okay. So now we start working with the feet. So the eyes are easily fooled. So the good news and bad news, we got a important visual system, but it's easily fooled. So we got to train it. Well, we train it not to look, much more train the feet to feel. So it's a lot harder to fool the feet than it is the eyes.
Certainly is. I've got my putting green at Tickenham is exactly the same, where there's a big hill, like the golf course is up on the hill, and you can see it's like, a good big drop. And then there's a certain section of the green that the ball, in inverted comma, breaks uphill, and it catches everyone out. It still, do you know what? It still catches me out sometimes. And I mean that with my eyes, when the students got a putt and they might, I don't know, do their aim point and they'll be like, it's right lip. And I'm looking at it going, oh no, he's got this one wrong here, Doc. But then he hits it, it breaks that way. And I'm like, because I forgot, like, as you said, the green's so all over the place. It's
yeah.
I absolutely love it. Every day it amazes me. So
it's exactly right. And all designers do things like that. I mean, even Faxon was one of 8 players I work with on this one green, and because of the mountain, the green looked like it was going this way, but it really was this way. So everyone was playing this as an uphill putt when it was really a level putt. And then, of course, the break was, and even Faxon misread it. So I thought, there you go. Best green reader possible I've ever worked with visually. They got him. So Jack Nicklaus won again.
Jack won again. Just jumping back to the eye stuff, Craig. Dominant eye, you've mentioned the importance of it. Can you explain the importance of it and how it sort of influences golfers?
Yeah, we kind of call that the aiming eye, because we know that one eye tends to get information faster to the brain neurologically. So it's the dominant eye, but it also is, we call it the aiming eye. So when you're shooting or whatever, one eye translates into more accuracy and awareness than the other. So especially realizing the fact that my dad was a golf pro and he was very right side on everything and right eye dominant, and so was my brother. So, Craig, get the ball back in your stance, get it back, get back. So I kept moving it back, and I was aiming right of Attila the Hun, and he would go, Craig, you're lining up, you're aiming right. And I go, no, I'm not, Dad. And then I pull the putt somewhere near the hole, and he'd go, teenagers, so I never understood why things were happening until I got into optometry school. And then we started talking about the dominant eye, and I'm going, So we started testing people and realizing that, of course, as literature would tell us, most of us are same side dominant, right eye right-handed, left eye left-handed. Amazing, Ollie, there are more golfers percentage-wise that are cross-dominant, not cross-eyed, cross-dominant, left eye and right-handed, for example, than the average population. So the other day I had 3 kids come in from an hour away, 14, 16, brother, sister, and a friend. All 3 of them were right-handed and left eye dominant, and then me being 4 out of 4. Pretty amazing, right? So what does that mean? Well, it actually means that I want the dominant eye to be at or behind the ball a little bit, as you can imagine, to see the line and aim better. Yeah. So for a left eye dominant right-handed player, I like the ball to be a little more forward.
Okay.
And so if you looked at me and I told you where I putted the best, if I just put my putter down behind the ball without aiming the line on the ball, I would have it off of my big toe, the middle of the ball off my big toe.
Okay.
That way I've got my left eye enough behind it that I can actually aim better. If I move it back to the center of my stance, I'm going to have to hook the putt at 10 feet, about a cup and a half.
Jesus.
So that's a big difference. Okay. Line on the ball is what I, of course, came up with to help me with that, because I finally figured out my dad knew more than I did about aiming at the time. And he was right and I was wrong. Sorry, Dad. Okay. But I hope he's proud of me a little bit now. The fact that I figured some things out thanks to him.
Sure he is. I'm sure he is. Doc, just on the line question there, I think golfers often use a line, and quite often the line can the perception is that it looks like it's pointing in a different direction.
Why is that?
Why is that?
Because their eyes are not in the right position.
Okay.
So I want them to realize that if they move their eyes back and forth a little bit, or if they're right eye dominant, tucking the chin more so both eyes are parallel to the line, right?
Yeah.
Okay. That they'll start to see that line looks like it's aimed correctly. So they're telling you, if the line is aimed correctly and you agree from behind and they get over it, that doesn't look good, that tells you their setup is off. And that's the first key they need to get into a proper visual setup with their eyes, whether it be over the ball or inside edge of the ball, or like Hideki, an inch inside the edge of the ball. Okay. So it depends on the player. And so that's an important scenario. And for the we that are cross dominant, left eye and right handed, I couldn't get that line on the ball to look right, no matter what I did with my eyes, until I got the ball forward. And so it made me at this time realize the line isn't all, it's ball position and eye position. So I've had a couple of big time instructors like Phil and David ask me those questions. How important is that? And I'm going, depends on the player, but it's big time.
Interesting. Brilliant. That's good. Okay, Doc, I'm really conscious of your time. I know you're back on the lesson tee with another Corn Ferry player, is it, this afternoon?
And this time, yeah, it's only 83 today here, so we're a little warm.
You should survive. You'll be all right. Make sure you got suntan lotion on.
Oh, always on a big hat.
A big hat. I had to wear my long johns today, Doc. It was that cold here.
That's why I mentioned this. sorry, that was not nice. Okay.
Yeah. All good fun.
Doc, wish you the best.
Sorry?
So wish you the best in the cold weather.
Yeah, I know. Does the weather affect your eyes? I'm just randomly thinking of something.
Well, it can a little bit, not so crazy much as what we're talking about, but certainly it can affect, just like the body. It's part of the body, so yeah, it can be affected. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, so Doc, please can you talk to the listeners about the books that you've written, where they can find them. Also, you've got a wonderful range of training aids. Tell us about them. Obviously, they're not widely available in the UK, the aids, but the books are, I'm sure.
Yeah, they can get on Amazon, for example, the Putting Prescription, which is the most recent book I've written, which is really in depth for instructors as well as players. So It's called The Putting Prescription. Also, training aids that I've come up with are the Putting Horse, which teaches a player how the stroke does arc and how the face does open, as well as the Putting Mat, which you can probably get over there too, which is checking if the player is on plane, meaning is the face perpendicular to the path and back and through an impact, of course. And we also have, I say, some of the aids that they can get through you and Roberto that are helpful. So it's at puttdoctor.com, puttdoctor.com is where my aids are. And we're happy to, if you get a bunch of your students that want them, we can send them to you, and in a lot of ways to get them over to you and make sense.
Brilliant. Absolutely. Well, I've thoroughly enjoyed that conversation today, Doc. I really hope you can come over to Italy later on next year, and we get a chance to meet and share a glass of fine red wine with Roberto.
He'll get it for us. Yeah. Absolutely.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Okay. Really appreciate your time. Thank you so much. And all the best. Have a lovely Christmas, and we'll catch up soon.
We'll do. You too, Ollie. Keep up the good work, man. Proud of you.
Thanks a
Good
lot.
stuff.
Cheers, Craig.
Thank you. Cheers.
Bye now. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.